Living with BPD, what it feels like. Hi everyone, and welcome back to our channel. We're grateful to have you here with us for another video. If you find this content helpful, please tap the like button and consider subscribing. Your support means a lot and helps us reach more people. Living with borderline personality disorder is like having your emotions turned up to volume 11 when everyone else is operating at a comfortable 3 or 4. It's exhausting, confusing, and often feels like you're trapped in a body that betrays you at the worst possible moments. Most people don't understand what it's actually like to live inside a mind that questions everything, especially your own worth and the intentions of people you care about. They see the outbursts, the mood swings, the seemingly irrational reactions, but they don't see the internal storm that creates those moments. Imagine waking up every morning not knowing which version of yourself you'll be that day. Will you be the confident, capable person who can handle anything? Or will you be the fragile, sensitive person who takes everything personally and feels like the world is against you? Most days, you cycle through both versions multiple times before lunch. The fear of abandonment isn't just anxiety about people leaving. It's a bone-deep terror that consumes your thoughts and influences every interaction. You analyze text messages for hidden meanings. A delayed response becomes evidence that someone is pulling away. A change in someone's tone makes you wonder what you did wrong. You become hypervigilant to any sign that confirms your worst fear that you're too much for people to handle. This hypervigilance is exhausting. Your brain is constantly scanning for threats to your relationships, threats to your sense of self, threats to your stability. It's like having a smoke detector that goes off every time someone burns toast, except the smoke detector is your emotional system and it's always going off. The identity issues are perhaps the most confusing aspect. You look in the mirror and sometimes don't recognize the person staring back. Not physically, but emotionally and mentally. Who are you really? What do you actually like? What are your genuine opinions versus the ones you've adopted to please others or fit in? These questions haunt you because the answers keep changing. You might be passionate about something one week and completely indifferent to it the next. Your career goals shift. Your hobbies change. Even your taste in music or food can feel unstable. It's not fickleness or being indecisive. It's genuinely not knowing who you are at your core because that core feels empty or constantly shifting. Relationships become the center of your universe, but also the source of your greatest pain. You love intensely and fear losing that love just as intensely. You might push people away to test if they'll come back, or cling so tightly that you suffocate them. Neither approach works, but the fear drives these behaviors anyway. You want to be close to people, but closeness feels dangerous. If someone really knows you, they'll see all your flaws and leave. If they don't really know you, the relationship feels fake and unsatisfying. You're caught between wanting intimacy and fearing it, wanting independence and fearing abandonment. The emotional swings aren't just mood changes. They're complete shifts in how you see reality. When you're angry, everyone is against you and always has been. When you're sad, you've never been happy and never will be. When you're anxious, catastrophe is inevitable. These feelings are so intense and all-consuming that they feel like absolute truth in the moment. People tell you to just calm down or think rationally, but that's like telling someone having a heart attack to just breathe normally. Your emotional system is in crisis mode. Logic and reason are drowned out by the intensity of what you're feeling. You know intellectually that your reaction might be disproportionate, but knowing that doesn't make it stop. The guilt and shame that follow intense episodes are crushing. You replay every word, every action, analyzing how you could have handled it differently. You apologize repeatedly, sometimes making things worse. You promise yourself and others that you'll do better next time, but part of you doesn't believe it because this has happened before. Self-harm and suicidal thoughts aren't always about wanting to die. Sometimes they're about wanting the emotional pain to stop. Sometimes they're about feeling something physical when you're emotionally numb. Sometimes they're about punishing yourself for being too much, too sensitive, too difficult. These thoughts and behaviors are ways of coping with overwhelming internal experiences. The emptiness is harder to explain than the intense emotions. It's not sadness or depression, though it can accompany those feelings. It's a hollow feeling, like something essential is missing from your core. You might try to fill it with relationships, achievements, substances, or behaviors, but nothing quite fits. The emptiness returns, persistent and uncomfortable. You become very good at reading people and situations because your survival depends on it. You notice micro-expressions, tone changes, body language shifts that others miss. This can make you incredibly empathetic and intuitive, but it's also exhausting to be so attuned to everyone else's emotional state while struggling to regulate your own. The stigma around BPD makes everything harder. Mental health professionals sometimes avoid working with BPD patients. Friends and family might blame you for your symptoms, telling you to just try harder or control yourself better. Society portrays people with BPD as manipulative or attention-seeking, when most of the time you're just trying to survive overwhelming internal experiences. You develop coping mechanisms that might look unhealthy from the outside but serve important functions. Maybe you withdraw when you feel overwhelmed. Maybe you seek constant reassurance from loved ones. Maybe you throw yourself into work or hobbies to distract from internal chaos. These strategies might not be perfect, but they help you get through difficult moments. The good days feel fragile, like they could shatter at any moment. You might have a wonderful morning and then receive a text that triggers hours of emotional turmoil. The instability makes it hard to plan, hard to commit, hard to believe that good feelings will last. You learn to appreciate positive moments while they're happening because you know they're temporary. Recovery isn't linear or simple. It's not about becoming emotionally numb or never having intense reactions. It's about learning to tolerate distress without acting impulsively. It's about developing a sense of self that remains somewhat stable even during emotional storms. It's about building relationships that can weather your intensity. Therapy becomes crucial, but finding the right therapist is challenging. You need someone who understands BPD, who won't give up on you when you're difficult, who can help you develop skills while validating your experience. Dialectical behavior therapy, or DBT, is specifically designed for BPD and teaches concrete skills for managing emotions and relationships. The skills you learn in therapy aren't just techniques, they become lifelines. Learning to identify emotions before they become overwhelming. Learning to pause between trigger and reaction. Learning to communicate needs without demanding. Learning to self-soothe when external validation isn't available. These skills take years to develop and constant practice to maintain. Medication can help with some symptoms, but there's no pill that cures BPD. Antidepressants might help with depression. Mood stabilizers might reduce emotional swings. Anti-anxiety medications might help with panic. But the core issues of identity, relationships, and emotion regulation require psychological work. You learn to create structure in your life because chaos feeds the disorder. Regular sleep schedules, consistent routines, healthy habits all help create stability when your internal world feels unstable. You might need more structure than other people, And that's okay. It's not weakness. It's adaptive. Support systems become essential but complicated. You need people who can handle your intensity without taking it personally. You need people who won't abandon you during difficult periods, but also won't enable destructive behaviors. Finding and maintaining these relationships requires ongoing work and communication. You discover that some of your BPD traits can be strengths when channeled appropriately. Your emotional intensity can fuel creativity and passion. Your ability to read people makes you a good friend when you're stable. Your empathy, born from your own suffering, allows you to connect deeply with others who are struggling. The journey involves accepting that you might always be more sensitive than average, that your emotions might always be more intense, that you might always need to work harder at relationships and self-regulation than some people do. This acceptance isn't resignation. It's the foundation for building a life that works with your temperament rather than against it. You learn to differentiate between thoughts, feelings, and facts. Just because you feel abandoned doesn't mean you are being abandoned. Just because you feel worthless doesn't mean you are worthless. Just because you feel like a situation is catastrophic doesn't mean it actually is. This distinction is crucial but takes time to internalize. Triggers become more predictable as you gain self-awareness. Stress, relationship conflicts, major changes, anniversaries of traumatic events, physical illness, hormonal changes, lack of sleep all can destabilize your emotional regulation. Knowing your triggers allows you to prepare and use coping strategies proactively. The shame spiral is a common experience. Something happens that triggers intense emotion. You react in a way that feels justified in the moment but seems excessive later. You feel ashamed of your reaction. The shame triggers more intense emotion. You react to the shame. The cycle continues until you're drowning in emotion and self-criticism. Breaking the shame spiral requires self-compassion, which is incredibly difficult when you've spent years criticizing yourself for your emotional reactions. You have to learn to treat yourself with the same kindness you'd show a friend who was struggling. This feels foreign at first, even selfish, but it's essential for healing. You realize that your BPD symptoms often serve protective functions. The fear of abandonment protects you from the pain of being left. The emotional intensity ensures that your needs are noticed. The identity shifting helps you adapt to different situations and people. Understanding the function of symptoms helps you develop alternative strategies. Romantic relationships present unique challenges. The intensity you bring can be initially attractive but overwhelming over time. You might idealize partners at first, seeing them as perfect and the solution to all your problems. When they inevitably disappoint you or show human flaws, you might swing to seeing them as completely bad or wrong for you. Learning to stay in the middle ground of relationships is crucial. People are neither all good nor all bad. Relationships have ups and downs. Conflict doesn't mean the relationship is doomed. These concepts seem obvious but are revolutionary when you've lived in emotional extremes. You develop a hypervigilance about your own emotions and reactions. You analyze everything you feel and do, sometimes to the point of paralysis. You second-guess yourself constantly. This self-monitoring can be helpful for catching problems early, but it can also make you feel like you're walking on eggshells in your own life. The fear of being too much influences many decisions. You might minimize your needs, hide your emotions, or avoid asking for help because you worry about burdening others. Ironically, this often leads to bigger problems when your suppressed needs and emotions eventually explode. Learning to trust your own perceptions is complicated when you know your emotions can distort reality. You might dismiss valid concerns because they feel too intense, or you might cling to misperceptions because they feel true. Developing this discernment takes time and often requires outside perspective from trusted friends or therapists. The workplace presents its own challenges. Professional environments often don't accommodate emotional intensity well. You might struggle with criticism from supervisors, conflicts with colleagues, or the stress of deadlines and expectations. Learning to separate personal reactions from professional situations is an ongoing process. You might find that creative outlets help you process and express intense emotions in healthy ways. Writing, art, music, movement all can provide channels for emotional energy. These outlets don't fix the underlying issues, but they offer ways to cope and communicate that feel safer than direct confrontation or discussion. The holidays and special occasions can be particularly challenging because they're often emotionally charged and involve family dynamics. Your expectations might be unrealistic, leading to disappointment. Family members might trigger old patterns. The pressure to be happy and grateful when you're struggling can feel overwhelming. You learn that recovery isn't about eliminating all symptoms or becoming perfectly stable. It's about reducing the frequency and intensity of crises. It's about developing enough skills and support to get through difficult periods without causing lasting damage to yourself or your relationships. The concept of distress tolerance becomes central to your coping strategies. You can't always change situations that upset you, but you can learn to endure difficult emotions without making them worse through impulsive actions. This might involve breathing exercises, grounding techniques, or simply telling yourself that feelings are temporary. Boundaries become both essential and difficult to maintain. You need boundaries with others to protect yourself from being overwhelmed or triggered. You need boundaries with yourself to prevent destructive behaviors. Setting and enforcing boundaries when you desperately want connection and approval requires ongoing practice. You discover that small daily practices can have a big impact on emotional stability. Regular meals, adequate sleep, gentle exercise, brief meditation, journaling, connecting with supportive people all help create a foundation of wellness that makes crises less frequent and less severe. The journey with BPD is not about becoming someone else entirely. It's about learning to work with your sensitive temperament rather than against it. It's about building a life that accommodates your emotional intensity while still allowing for growth, connection, and fulfillment. Many people with BPD develop a deep wisdom about emotions, relationships, and human nature through their struggles. They become excellent therapists, counselors, artists, and advocates. Their sensitivity, once a source of pain, becomes a source of strength and insight that benefits not only themselves but others who are struggling. Recovery is possible. It's not easy, it's not quick, and it's not perfect, but it's absolutely possible. With the right support, skills, and commitment, people with BPD can build stable, fulfilling lives. The intensity that once felt like a curse can become a gift when properly channeled and supported. Living with BPD means accepting that your emotional world will always be more complex than average, but it also means discovering depths of feeling, empathy, and resilience that many people never access. It's a challenging path, but it's your path, and with patience and support, you can learn to walk it with grace. If this message speaks to you, we'd love it if you gave this video a thumbs up, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more meaningful content. Your support helps other people discover their path to healing. Thank you for being part of this growing community.